And this is a video, our third video, about an activity 100% related to microorganisms. That's fermentation. This is the video that Kristina recorded, and please grab a piece of paper so you can write down all the ingredients that you're gonna need.
Hi, I'm Kristina Campbell, science and medical writer and author of the Well-Fed Microbiome Cookbook. And here's my assistant, Cece. And today, in celebration of International Microbe Day, we are going to demonstrate how to make fermented dilly carrots. So this is a way to put microbes to work for you in your own kitchen. The microbes today that will be working are a broad group called the lactic acid bacteria, and they look something like this. And these bacteria, many of them lactobacilli, transform a plain old carrot into something that's very tangy and delicious. So this is the finished jar of fermented carrots that we'll be making today. So also they're a great beginner's ferment because they're quick and easy, and because carrots have sort of a consistent texture, the results are usually very crunchy and a very good thing to start with if you're new to fermenting. So here's what you need. You need a 2-cup measuring cup. You need a jar, some sort of weight, and what we've done here is put some glass beads sealed inside a Ziploc bag, and that will help weigh down our carrots once they're in the brine. We need, of course, fresh carrots. So we've prepared them here, and they are just unpeeled, and they are cut up into kind of as uniform a size as we could get them. And you want them uniform size so that they ferment evenly, and you won't have one carrot that's thinner that gets more fermented than a thicker carrot in your jar. We also have fresh garden dill, sea salt, and we're using a very coarse salt, as you can see here. It's a very thick one. You can use any sort of sea salt. You can use fine-grained as well. We also have optional spices. So today we're going to use a bay leaf and also some mustard seeds. And then to put those spices in, we have a paper tea bag that we'll just put them in to go in the jar. And we also then need a jar cover. So that's for at the end, a breathable cover. You don't have to use a custom-made cover. You can just use a cheesecloth or a clean tea towel for that part. So we're going to start by preparing the brine. So what we'll do is put 2 cups of water into our measuring cup, and we may use warm or hot water and fill it right up to the 2-cup mark. The warm or hot water just helps the salt dissolve better, but by the time you use the brine in your ferment, you will want it to be room temperature. So then we'll add 1.5 tablespoons of salt into the water and stir it up. And when that's all stirred up, that will be our brine. And so in the meantime, while that's dissolving, and then later while it's cooling, you can chop up carrots. Again, I have just scrubbed these and left the skin on. So the microbes that we want in our ferment are already living on the surface of the carrot and on the skin. And what we're going to do is, by adding the brine, we're going to make some of the microbes bloom and make the ones we don't want kind of die out, go away. So we've got our brine now. So now we prepare our jar, and note that the jar we're using is just a clean, dry jar. It doesn't have to be sterilized or anything like that. As long as it's clean and dry, it will be perfectly adequate, because again, we're creating the right conditions for sort of friendly microbes to grow, and that will keep the ferment very safe. So to begin filling our jar, we're going to take the dill, a nice big bunch of it that's been washed, and just kind of coil it inside the jar at the very, very bottom. And then on top of that, we're going to have the spices. So we can fill up our tea bag with these optional spices. So if you can help me do that. So we put our mustard seeds in, and our bay leaf. Just pull that drawstring, and then we can pack that as well down in the bottom of the jar. And that will add some nice flavor to the ferment. Very subtle flavor, really. So you can add different spices if you like. Peppercorns are also nice. And now we can add our carrots, and we're going to pack in the carrots. So again, I've cut the carrots to a pretty consistent length, and so we're going to pack them in.
For a minute. You can see they're nicely packed in the jar.
Okay, finish packing. We'll see if we can get all of the carrots in there. Pack them as tightly as possible. Just jam them right in. Great job, Cece. Now, the way you know you've packed the jar well is try turning it upside down gently. And if none fall out, you've done a great job. So now we're going to add our brine to the jar. So what we do is just slowly pour the brine in, and it's gonna fill every little crevice in that jar, and stop pouring about 1 inch from the top, just about right where this ledge is in the jar. Keep going, keep going. So you want to make sure that all your carrots are covered. And oops, I still see one poking out, so let's add a little more brine. So the reason for this is that for any traditional brine ferment, you need 3 elements. So one element is the substrate. The substrate in this case is the thing you're fermenting, it's the carrot. You also need a brine. Of course, we've added the brine, and that's gonna create the environment for the microbes to grow and transform the carrot. And the third element you need is actually the lack of an element. It's a lack of oxygen. So we want the brine to cover up all the spaces in here so that there's no oxygen. Because if there is oxygen, then the wrong kind of microbes could grow. So to be extra sure that we won't have any oxygen, that's where our weight comes in. So we're just going to place the weight on top of the carrots and right into the brine. Yeah, some might come out, and that's okay, as long as your carrots stay put. And usually at the beginning, your carrots will be packed nice and tightly, and there's it'll feel like you don't need the weight, but over time the carrots will contract a little bit, and that's when you'll find they'll start poking out of the brine. So that's when it's handy to have had the weight on top after a few days. So there we are, and all we have to do now is to cover it with a breathable cover. And you could possibly secure it with an elastic band. And this ferment should be ready in about 1 week. So again, here's the finished ferment, and the brine turned a little bit cloudy. The way that I knew this was ready is by taking a tiny bit of the brine with a clean spoon and tasting it. And if it tastes really salty, then you know it's not quite ready. But if it has like a sour flavor to it, then it may be ready. And you can leave it even longer than 1 week if you like it more sour. But I find just after 1 week, they're quite delicious. And Cece likes them too. One more thing, a frequently asked question is whether the microbes that grow in a ferment like this are probiotics. And the answer is
No.
no, because the definition of probiotics are live microorganisms, which when administered in adequate amounts confer a health benefit, which means that you need to know what types of microbes exactly and how many, because they need to be administered at an adequate dose. So you need to know, you need to characterize them in terms of their name and their quantity. So in a ferment like this, I don't know exactly which microbes are in unless I would test this. I don't know how many. And so if I wanted to guarantee you some sort of health benefit, I would have no way of reproducing this exact ferment. You know, every ferment like this is a bit different, created in a different place by different people, and just a beautiful wild mix of microbes. So that is not the same as a probiotic, but they are called live cultures. And I think there are several scientists in groups around the world working on finding out the health benefits of even these wild collections of microbes. So happy fermenting. Thanks for joining Cece and I today. And if you do make these fermented dilly carrots, we would love to hear about it. You can tweet me a picture. You can find me on Twitter by Kris Campbell. That's BYKRIS Campbell by Kris Campbell. Happy fermenting.
Bye.
Okay, now you can turn.
Yeah, so we hope you are going to try and do that probably on the weekend when you have enough time to do that. And now we're running a little bit out of time. So let's keep talking about food. So as you know, oranges are, sorry, I need to move this. Carrots are orange, and that's because of a pigment that they have that is called beta carotene. And this pigment is used in the food industry to give color to different foods, just like cheese, for example. If you run into a piece of cheese that is more orange than usual, it probably has beta carotene. However, in the industry, beta carotene is not obtained from carrots. It is obtained from an algae, that is this one, called Dunaliella salina, that produces huge amounts of beta carotene. And when it blooms in lakes, actually the lakes turn pink, like the one that you can see here. So this is one pigment that we obtain from microorganisms and that is used in the food industry. We also have more red from the same bacteria, from Serratia marcensis. We obtain pigments that are used in dairy products, specifically in yogurts, probably strawberry yogurts, so they can turn and look a little bit more pink than they should be. We also have, this food that you can see here. I'm sorry if you're getting hungry, I hope not. Here we have fermented rice, surimi, salmon, and this is a dish called Peking duck. All these dishes are traditional from Asia, and the color that they have is sometimes enhanced or produced by a pigment that comes from a fungus called Monascus purpureus. And this fungus is the one that you're seeing on this petri dish, can produce pigments that go from yellow to orange and even purple. Like I said, all these dishes are common in southern China, Japan, and other regions of Asia. And finally, I want to tell you about another bacteria that is called Chromobacterium violaceum. It's the one that you can see on the petri dish, and it's obviously violet, and the compound that it produces is called violacin. This compound is nowadays used as an antibiotic, but it's currently being researched because it has a lot of potential in the food industry to give different shades of violet, but most of all in the cosmetic industry. So who knows, maybe the cosmetics that we are buying in the next few years will have a little bit of violacin in it. So that's another use that microbial pigments may have. And well, I think that's all. We're running out of time. You can find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under the name of Pop Microbiology.